Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us today. The TBL team is super excited to get this new user webinar started in just a couple of minutes. We want to wait a little bit just to give everybody a chance to log on and get settled before we get started. So give us about another minute or two and then we'll begin.
Hey guys, we're so excited that you're joining us here today. So I'm Megan, I am the manager of Two Bright Lights, and I'm joined by Tessa, who's our social media and community coordinator. So if you've ever sent in an email to support or hello at Two Bright Lights,
That's me.
You probably heard from Tessa. She also sends out so many of our email blasts, so you probably have received an email from her before too. But we are so happy that you're here joining us and taking the first step into getting great submissions to get published. So I'm going to pass it over to Tessa. She's going to walk you through how to create these amazing submissions, give you some tips along the way. I will be manning the chat, so if you have any questions as we go, feel free to send them in. And yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Hi, guys. So today I'm going to walk you guys through everything you'll need to know to become a submission rockstar on Two Bright Lights. I'm also going to give you as many tips and tricks as we can fit in our hour along the way. And then, like Megan said, we'll do a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can also ask those questions at any time. She'll be looking at the chat. So definitely stop us and ask us to clarify anything if you need help. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to share our screen here. Okay. All right, great. Okay. So this is really the home screen when you log into Two Bright Lights. You'll see all of your important tabs up here, the albums tab, the submissions tab, the request tab. And then if you scroll down, you'll see this live feed feature. And these are all of the live features that are happening in real time. So you can see 45 minutes ago, an album was featured on Borrowed in Blue. So it's kind of a nice way to see what's getting published, what's trending right now, and get any inspiration before you start submitting. But what we're going to start with today is the Albums tab. And right now I'm going to go through how to create your album and do all the things that you need to do to set up your album before you actually hit the submit button. So when you are creating an album, the first thing you want to hit is Create Album button right here. Okay, and so this is the first step. You're really going to categorize what you're submitting and what types of photos you're uploading. So we have a couple different categories. We have weddings, engagement, family, parties, and lifestyle. So those are all pretty self-explanatory. If you're doing engagement, you'd want to hit on the engagement. If you're doing maybe a newborn shoot, you'd want to hit family, and so on and so forth. So today we're just going to leave it on weddings, and we're going to leave it on wedding day. But as you can see, there's definitely a lot of different subcategories that are great to use when you're uploading something other than just a real wedding. So the next stage you're going to describe on whether it is a real wedding or a styled shoot. So again, pretty self-explanatory. A real wedding is a wedding that took place on an actual wedding day, and then styled is a styled shoot. So if you worked with a bunch of vendors to put together some inspiration, you'd want to click on that styled button. So today I'm going to hit real. And then this is really the section where you fill in the majority of the important information that an editor is going to want to see and look at before they write and decide on a feature. So on the left here, you can designate bride and groom accordingly. You can fill in their first and last name. So client info is the couple that you worked with on their wedding day. So it's not your info, it's the couple's. So right now I'm going to enter in a test. Okay, and then you can see event date right over here, location where it took place. So right now I'm going to just put Brooklyn, New York. Great, event date, you can say the 1st. And then the descriptive title and the album story. So these are really, really important pieces of information because they're one of the first things that an editor is going to see when they're looking at your submission. So the descriptive title, it doesn't have to be ridiculously long. It can be pretty short and to the point, but it's nice to put in a couple of descriptive words so an editor knows what they're looking at before they actually click into the album. So we have the example here, Vineyard Wedding in Napa. The one I like to give is, summer beach wedding on Coney Island, something like that. So you know that it took place during the summer. It was on the beach, so maybe it might be nautical themed, you can kind of think along those lines, and then Coney Island where it took place. And then album story. Right now I'm just going to put in test so we can advance the next stage. But a couple of tips for the album story. So this is where you want to put as much information as you can about the actual wedding. So anything from how the couple met to the inspiration behind their wedding theme, maybe why they picked the wedding dress, the bride picked a wedding dress that was meaningful to her, or even those really interesting and meaningful details like maybe the groom's grandmother recently passed away and the bride had a locket with her photo wrapped around the bouquet. So those are really important details that editors will definitely want to include in a submission, want you to include in the submission so then they can write about it in their feature. So as many interesting facts and just info about the day that you can include, you're definitely going to want to put it in this spot here in the album story. So once you're done with that, you can go ahead and click the next button. And here's where you're going to tag your venue and your vendors. So your venue is here on the left. Just simply search for the venue that you'd like to put in there, and you'll hit the magnifying glass and it should pop up. One tip that I will give here is our search engine can be a little finicky, and sometimes when you type in an entire name of a venue, same with the vendors. If you type in an entire vendor name and you hit the magnifying glass, it might not pull. So before you go ahead and try to start tagging a new vendor, search by the venue name or the vendor name by like half of the venue name. So one example I'll always give for a vendor is we have one called Rosewood Catering. If you search Rosewood Catering all together, it won't pull in our system. But if you just search Rosewood, it will pull. So why don't you give that a try if you have any issues with their vendor tagging, and see that if that works before you actually go ahead and go through the steps of creating a new vendor tag. So for right now, I'm going to hit private residence for the venue. But I will show you how to tag an actual vendor. So I'm going to type in just bakery. And as you can see, my choices popped up below. So what you would want to do is, I'm sure working on an actual event, you'll have a much more specific name of a bakery. So once you type in that name, you'd hit the magnifying glass and search below. But if you don't see that actual vendor tag, you can go ahead and create the new vendor button. and fill in all the necessary information to create that new vendor tag. So this is a nice way that if we don't have somebody already in the database, you can still include them in the submission, and that way they can get their proper credit. If you do see them here, all you would have to do is hit the check box to the left, add selected vendors, and as you can see, it added up here on the vendor section. And then just to the right, I want to point out two things. We have the import from ShootQ button and the ask for client help. So we have this great integration here at ShootQ. So if you're somebody who uses ShootQ and has all of your information already there, you can connect your two accounts and upload that information to 2 Bright Lights just to make your lives a little easier. And then on the right, we have the Ask Client for Help button. So what's really great about this feature is we know that you may not know all of the vendor information from the day. You're creating albums for weddings that happened, maybe 6 or more months ago. So we get it. But this is a great tool to help you fill in as much information as you can. You can send an email to maybe somebody like the wedding planner who might have the entire list of vendors. You can send an email right through our system notifying them that you're creating an album and you'd like their help in tagging all the vendors and including all the information. So if you ever find yourself in a spot where you might not remember a piece that you want to include, go ahead and use this feature just to get a little extra assistance. So once you're done tagging all of your vendors and tagging your venue, you'd want to hit the next button. And then you can do a little bit more with our tagging. So this is based on like the theme. So you can see you can pick all of the colors. So if there are any really important colors throughout the day, you could tag them up here. And then same with the descriptive tag. So we said, let's see, beach wedding, it was in the summer. We're just gonna stick with that for right now. But if there's anything else that you thought of for your album that you're uploading, maybe it was a DIY wedding, beach, maybe we can hit nautical for this one. Anything like that. And then once you're done tagging all of the things that you think are necessary, you can hit the next button. And you'll be brought to your first empty album shell. So this is what an album looks like before you go ahead and start adding all of your images. One thing I will note is that you can always go in and edit and update your album information at any time. So if you create your album now and you want to submit it next week, but you couldn't remember the florist, you can go ahead and figure that out maybe by contacting the wedding planner, contacting the couple, and then go back in through the albums page and click on this album. And then there would be an edit album button here, and you can go ahead and click accordingly and add your vendors. So you can always go back and add information at a later time. So to upload your images, you'll just want to go down here and hit the Add Images button. And as you can see, we have some really great integrations. We integrated with Dropbox, SmugMug, Zenfolio, Shootproof. And then we also have the My PC upload option. So this is just if you want to upload images from your computer, you can go ahead and click that here. And then we also have your image requirements. We have 2,000 pixels wide, so all of the images need to be at least 2,000 pixels wide. We require that your images are not watermarked before you submit them to publication. All of your files should be JPEG formatted, and then we do allow everybody to upload 150 images if you have a paid account with us. So definitely you want to use that 150 image limit, maximum I should say, and upload as many images as you can from the day. Okay, so this is really an album in a nutshell. What I'm going to do is stop here and pause for any questions. I can also give a few really great tips at this point as well. So I'm going to check in with Megan, see if we have any questions.
So we're going to give people a couple more minutes to bring in their questions.
Okay,
but
great.
In terms of the types of images that they should be selecting, what's a good rule of thumb?
Sure. So we always say that the heavier you can be on the details for a submission, the better. So like I just mentioned, you're allowed to upload as many as 150 images. Really should be using a large percentage of that upload amount for the details. Keep the bridal portraits, ceremony, and reception photos to a minimum, but include the detail shot. So one thing I want to touch upon is what's a detail shot? It's things like shots of the cake, shots of the bouquet, shots of the bridesmaid dress, any cool details of the wedding dress, maybe the back of the gown is particularly gorgeous. Really any image that you think would be inspiring to couples that are planning their big day. So you have to put yourself in the shoes of the editor and think, what types of material would an editor want to feature on their blog or publication to really inspire couples that are coming and looking for inspiration for their own planning.
So we actually just got a really good question from Ahmed. I
Great.
hope I said that right. Should we upload only edited final photos or wait to see if a photo will be accepted and then go back and edit it?
Okay, good question. So we recommend that you upload your images in their final state. So anything that you want to be published on a blog or a publication, put it in your album. So think of submitting an album to a publication as the last step for your album and sending your pictures off to a client. So one of our best 2 Bright Lights users, Randy and Ashley Photography, they have 2 Bright Lights built into their workflow that they don't mark a wedding as done with their clients until they've actually uploaded it into 2 Bright Lights and submitted it to publication. So think of 2 Bright Lights as really that last step. You want to edit your photos, obviously give them to your client and share them with whoever you need to share them with, and then upload those to your 2 Bright Lights account, build your album, and then submit them to publication. You really don't want to have editors having to go back and forth with you to talk about images and see if they can get them edited in a certain way. You want to submit your photos in their final form to an editor.
Great. So it looks like that's all the questions we have right now. So why don't we move on and send them on in if you have any.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'm going to move to the submissions tab now. So we kind of did the nitty gritty, we've built that album. Now the fun part is submitting that actual work and picking those publications that you want to be featured in. So to start, you're going to want to hit the Create Submission button. And then you can go ahead and pick what album you want to submit to publication. So this is really the final step to double check all of your work. You want to make sure that the client contact info is correct. The album story has all of the information you want to include in your submission. Double check the tags, all the vendors and whatnot. And then go ahead and click the Terms of Service checkbox and hit Next. Okay, so this is the submissions page, and it's the great spot where you get to pick all of your publications and where you want to submit to. So we have submissions filtered down by exclusive and non-exclusive publication types. Exclusive publications are publications that only accept material that has not been featured on any other site, any other publication, even your own blog. Non-exclusive publications are publications that don't care where your materials have been featured. So if you submitted to other publications, that's fine. If you blogged about the wedding on your own personal or business blog, that's fine as well. So right now, we'll just leave the non-exclusive box checked. Scroll down and see the publications poll below. So since this is a different album, it was categorized as engagement. You can see that these publications poll because they accept engagement. But if you were submitting a wedding album, you would have this category selected, and then you can go ahead and see which publications accept weddings. So what I will do is just click a couple right now so you can see. Let's see. Okay, so you would just go ahead and click the publications that you want to submit to here, and then they would pull in the selected publications section right here. So you could always double check your work and where you click to, and then you'd want to hit the next button. So this is the last step. We totally understand at this point you just want to submit that album, but it's really, really important that you take the time to add a personalized note to each of your submissions just to show the editors that you've really done your research and you're really excited to submit to that publication. So if you wanted to personalize each note, you can just go ahead and click on each publication name here, and you can go ahead and type in your note. And once you are finished with that note, you could hit the Save button and then hit the Submit. You can always save a submission as a draft. So maybe there's one little element that you wanted to double check on or include. You could hit Save as a draft and access that submission at a later date and then finalize it and hit Submit. Okay.
We have some awesome questions.
We do? Okay,
yeah,
great.
So I want to pause for a second.
Yeah, definitely.
So Rebecca asked about recommended image size.
Yes.
So I know it's something that pops up when you go to upload the images, but can you remind us?
Sure. So images need to be at least 2,000 pixels wide when uploading to 2 Bright Lights. It's a really great way to provide editors with high-res photos, and then they can size down if needed. As an editor, there's nothing worse than getting an album that's really gorgeous. You love all of those images, but then they're too low res to include on your blog or in your publication. So just making sure that they're 2,000 pixels wide is a really great rule of thumb.
Perfect. So Jade's asking, why does the editor need the client contact information?
Sure. So a lot of our editors like to talk about the couple in a more personal way. So it's just a nice thing to include, if the bride has any special moments from the wedding that needs to be talked about and can be included in a submission. And then a lot of our publications actually like to send out questionnaires to a couple. So for example, The Knot actually does this on a lot of their submissions. They want to get more information from the couple about their inspiration, important information about the day. So they actually have their own mini queue built into 2 Bright Lights that they can just submit directly to the client. So it's just a nice piece of information to include when you can.
That's a great point.
Okay.
So Christina is asking, if a ceremony is not particularly pretty,
Sure.
should we at least submit one photo of the ceremony, or avoid if they are simply just not great images?
Yeah.
Is one ever too few?
Okay, great question. So there's a couple of things with this question that we can touch upon. Definitely still include a couple of photos. It's always good to show that inspiration. But really the ceremony images should be so little in your album that it's really only a couple, like 4 to 5 images. One thing I would offer up as a tip is try, when you're actually at the wedding, try shoot. One thing we always say is shoot for publication. So obviously you're there to take photos for your client, but definitely try to build in some time to take images that will be useful for a publication. So that way you can stretch and get that work recognized on an actual publication or blog, magazine, or whatnot. So things that we've heard from photographers that do really well on 2 Bright Lights, they'll bring things like a styling kit to improve upon some of the details that may not be the best for shooting for publication. So I know like Casey Hendrickson, was our Platinum Circle winner for 2016. So she's been published over 150 times in 2016 in 2 Bright Lights. So she really knows what she's talking about. And she says that she always brings a nice styling kit with ribbon and different little props that she can include to boost the invitation suite shot or anything like that. So try to take that thought and bring that to the ceremony. So if you're at a ceremony that might not be the best looking ceremony that you've been to, try to shoot it in angles in ways that can really boost the highlights and the best parts of that ceremony, while also taking photos that will appeal to your client and make them happy as well.
Great.
Awesome.
So a bunch more questions.
Okay, great.
So Trevor has a question. Does an image from an album being in our personal portfolio mean it's not exclusive?
So, okay, I get what you're saying. So, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. So what I'm getting from this question is, if you have images on your portfolio and your website, does that count as something that should not be submitted to an exclusive publication? So what I'm going to say on that is no. We completely understand, publications understand as well, that you guys are running businesses and you need to attract potential clients, and those images are rightfully so when they're on your website and in your portfolio. What we're talking about is we have some photographers that have really huge followings on their personal blogs or on their social media, on their Instagram accounts. Try to avoid posting those like knockout photos from a wedding that you're trying to submit to an exclusive on those outlets if you can. But again, publications understand that you guys are running businesses and you're trying to attract clients. So just keep it in mind, but don't worry about posting things on your own portfolio. It's perfectly understandable.
And I think the same can be said for, like, it's not like you should tell your clients, oh no, you can't use those images on social, unless your client is somebody super famous and then the image is going to go viral. You don't really have to worry about it because publications will probably want to pick it up anyway. So
yeah, it's okay.
I would say it's something you don't really have to stress about.
Great.
So then Christina has another great question. Can you submit to an exclusive publication and later to a non-exclusive if it's not accepted?
Sure.
What happens if the time it takes the exclusive is too long before the non-exclusive's deadline?
Sure. So a couple things there. You can definitely submit to an exclusive and then submit to a non-exclusive at a later date. So we have photographers that do this all the time. They have their top exclusive publication that they want to get featured in. They upload the wedding as soon as they can. They submit it to that publication and then wait to hear back from the exclusive. And then once they hear back, if it was accepted, they'll wait the exclusivity period. So that's usually anywhere from 1 to 6 months. And then once that album is released back to them, they'll go ahead and submit it to the non-exclusive publications. If your album does not get accepted by that exclusive publication, you can always go ahead and resubmit it to another exclusive publication if you want to give it another go. Or you can go ahead and submit it right away to non-exclusives. What was the other part of that question?
What happens if it takes too long?
Before the okay. So what I would recommend is go ahead and check on the editor response time in their editor profile page. I will cover where to find that in just a couple of minutes. So put a pin in that thought. But I will show you how to see how long an editor is scheduled to take to review a submission, and judge it accordingly and whether or not you still want to submit it to that exclusive before the non-exclusive's deadline. The other thing you can do is you could always submit it to the exclusive and wait and see how long they take. And if it's getting close to that deadline for the non-exclusive, you can always pull back a submission if it hasn't been acted upon. So if you submitted an album to an exclusive publication and they haven't accepted it or put it on hold or anything like that, you can go ahead and hit the resubmit button and send it to the non-exclusive. So that way you still get it in on the deadline, but you were able to give it a shot with the exclusive in that kind of time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. So Justin is asking, when creating an album, I noticed there was no category for elopements.
Okay.
How would you suggest we categorize that?
It's a good question. What I would still categorize it as wedding day. And then in the album story, make it really clear that it is an elopement. So we actually have a bunch of publications that, like Simply Elope, for example. They're great, and they are looking exclusively for elopements. So just be very upfront about the fact that it is an elopement. That might also speak to the lack of vendors as well. So that's another thing that we get asked a lot is what happens if you shoot a wedding that only has 2 to 3 vendors in it? Mention it in the album stories. Talk about that it's an elopement. That way, just the editor is included and knows what they're looking at. And then you can go ahead and submit it to those publications that are looking for that type of photography.
And I think even putting it in the album title is helpful too, because then you're just getting that information in front of them multiple ways. Never hurts. They're probably going to miss one of them.
Yeah.
So try it in a couple ways. And,
absolutely.
But I think wedding day, you're right. That's the best way of going about it.
Great. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. So I think that's all the questions we have right now.
Alrighty.
So if you want to keep going, then we can keep sending them in.
Okay, great. So the other tab that I want to cover is the request tab. So if you want to click on that request tab. Okay, so this is going to be a live feed of all of the publications that are currently looking for specific types of material within 2 Bright Lights. So we have over 400 publications, and they're always looking for submissions. But at different times throughout the year, publications might be looking for specific types of material. So you can go ahead and click on this request tab to check out what publications are looking for what types of materials and when their deadlines are. So if you want to look at the top, you can see publication. There's the description, the category, location, when the request was posted, and then when they like all those submissions in by. So one great example is right here, Beauty and Lifestyle Magazine. She's always accepting submissions, but right now she's looking specifically for swimsuit maternity photography, and she'd like all those submissions to be in by, March 10th. And here's the description right here. So it says we're looking for style maternity swimsuit photography for their print publication. So it just gives you a little bit more about what they're looking for. And you can actually submit. So this is a new feature that we're really excited to offer. You can submit directly from a request in the request tab. Already have an album uploaded in your albums tab on the Two Bright Lights account, you can hit this arrow right here and you will begin the submissions process without having to go back to the albums page and queue up your submission that way. You can also filter the request up here. So if you want to hit that filter button, you can go ahead and filter it by flag, policy, publication, and category. So Flag is a really great tool if you spend some time one afternoon potentially going through the request tab and flagging the ones you're interested in potentially submitting to. You can go ahead and hit those flags and then hit filter by flag and you'll see them pull here. So it's just another tool to stay a little bit more organized, but then go ahead and submit a little bit more efficiently. So this is the request tab, and I'm going to go ahead and show the next tool that's really great to find potential editor information and just what editors are looking for. So if you want to hit on the avatar in the top right corner of the screen and then hit the community tab. Hit the Browse Publications tab up to the left. And here you're going to see thumbnails for over 400 publications. So if you wanted to click into one, so for right now I'm going to click into the Knot. These little profiles are really just the central hub for all the information you're going to need about a publication. So you can see it gives the contact information, it gives a little bit more just about the Knot as a publication in general. And then if you scroll down, it's going to list all of their important information. So what they're looking for, any submission requirements. So for right now, they have their deadlines for the regional print magazines. Talks about their history, their editorial style, And then to the left is the more nitty-gritty details. So their response time, the number of features per year, publication frequency, all of that good stuff. So this is something to check out if you submitted to a publication and maybe it's been a couple of weeks and you want to make sure that the editor is checking out your stuff, but then you also don't want to bug them and jump the gun. We get it. You're totally excited. You want to get featured. Go ahead and check on the editor profile to make sure that the editor is staying within their response time listed. So that way you can know when it might be a good time to reach out to them by email to just do a little check-in if they haven't responded yet. Then you can also scroll down to this portfolio section here. It's a really nice way to see what types of images an editor is looking for. So as you can see, there's a style going on for the Knot, and you can always check your images and compare them to this portfolio. So if you're not sure what type of photography, what publication to submit your type of photography to, take a look at these portfolio sections and compare and contrast. And then one thing that we just added to these that we're also really excited to offer is the Submit to this Publisher button. So if you took a look at a magazine and you thought, wow, I have a wedding that's just perfect for the Knot that I'd like to submit to, you can hit the Submit to Publisher button to go ahead and start that submission process without having to go back to the albums page and start it from there. So again, just another tool that we're adding to make your lives a little bit easier and efficient. And the last thing I wanted to cover is just a little bit of housekeeping. So if you wanted to click on the avatar and go to the My Account tab, here's where all of your information is stored just as your personal account. So it has your business information, your email address that's tied to the account, what industry you're in, types of things that you shoot, and then all of your social media info. So if at any point maybe you change your business name, you updated your website, you added an Instagram account and you wanted to put it here, you can go ahead and do that by clicking on the My Account button and editing accordingly. You can also access any badges that you may have earned from published features. So when you're published on a publication, your badge would show up on this little tab here, and you could always download it and share it on social media, put it on your blog, go ahead and brag away. We really love when our TBL success stories start using those badges. They're a great way to attract potential clients and just be a great marketing tool. And then here you can, on the permissions tab, manage any vendor requests that you may have. So one thing I haven't really touched upon is that vendors can create an account within Too Bright Lights and submit on photographers' behalf. So for example, if you're a wedding planner and you've worked with a couple of different photographers and you'd really like to submit their work to publication, so that way you can get published, the photographer can get published, all the other vendors that were on the event can get published. It's really a great, it's a win-win situation. You can go ahead and sign up for an account with Too Bright Lights and then send an actual permissions request to a photographer, and they would go ahead and approve that request so that the vendor could go ahead and upload the images and submit on that photographer's behalf. So since this is a photographer account, if you're somebody who's getting a permission request from a vendor, you would want to hit on the My Account tab, hit the permissions, and see which ones are pending and act on them accordingly. So this is really the My Account tab in a nutshell. I've kind of gone over all of the nitty-gritty things that you need to know to get started on Too Bright Lights. I'm happy to check back in with Megan and see if there's any questions before we wrap up for today.
Awesome. We do have questions.
Awesome. Okay.
So Trevor is wondering, is it better to submit to publications that have a current request listed, or find a publication that fits your style and send it to them regardless?
Sure. Awesome question. So what I would recommend is that you do both. So requests are really, I think of it as an additional resource to be able to submit through Too Bright Lights. So you can always submit at any time and base your submissions off of aesthetic, types of photography that you're shooting. That's always just a good rule to follow 100% of the time in Too Bright Lights. But the request is another way to win over an editor's heart. So if you see on the request tab, like Beauty and Lifestyle Mommy was looking for swimsuit maternity, and you have an album featuring that, what I would recommend is you submit that album to Beauty and Lifestyle Mommy, and then remember that editor note section. In that note section, mention that you saw them on the request tab. It really goes a long way with an editor when they see, oh, this photographer, they took the time to see what I was looking for, what my style is like, and they even saw my request in the request tab. This is great. And it just gives you a leg up from other submitters and shows that you're taking the time to learn more about the publication, which is just such a huge win for you and boosts your chances of getting accepted and featured on that publication.
Great.
Yeah.
So there's two questions about requests.
Okay.
One is, can you flag submission requests in column mode?
Okay.
And the other is there a way to filter by print or web?
Okay, sure. So this is column mode right here, and you can go ahead and flag the ones that you want to look at by hitting that actual flag button. So let me clear this. We'll start from scratch. So when you go to the request tab, right now this is what it looks like. So if you wanted to submit to, let's see, Beauty and Lifestyle Mommy magazine, but you weren't ready yet and you just wanted to keep it in mind, hit the flag button here, hit filter above, and hit flag. So it pulls up, you can see it right here, it pulls all the ones that you flagged accordingly, so you don't have to write them down on a piece of paper or just mentally try to remember them. That's can be a little confusing. So that's what I would recommend for the flag. And then filter. The filters that we have right now are by policy, so you can go ahead and hit exclusive, non-exclusive, publication if you know the name, and then category. So right now we don't have it by print or by web, but you can kind of get a better sense from exclusive and non-exclusive. That's more importantly the best filter.
So Christina actually just asked if the flags still work in the other.
Oh, not in
view.
column. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, column. I'm sorry. I thought this was column. So let's take a look. Let me clear this. Okay, so I don't see the flag feature in this view, but definitely great feedback and something that we will note and pass along to our developers.
Yeah,
That's awesome
absolutely.
feedback.
Between that and the filtering by print or web, those are both great feedback
Yes, absolutely.
items. So thank you for sharing those. Okay, another question. How important is the date of the wedding or photo shoot? We have some cool old weddings that have never been featured.
Okay, so what we recommend is that you submit albums that were shot about a year, maximum a year and a half ago. So year and a half, I would say if it's something that is particularly timeless, go ahead and try to submit that. But always be honest about the date when the wedding took place or the style shoot took place. That's really important with editors. And just keep in mind trends and styles. That's that's part of the reason why we recommend 1 to 1.5 years, because trends just come and go so quickly. Something that might have been really popular 2 years ago is just not in style anymore. The industry moves that quickly. So keep that in mind when submitting to publication.
Perfect.
Any other questions from anybody?
So Nancy had a question about, where is it? How do you upload images for a vendor to have in their website? So
Okay.
I'm guessing you mean when you're sharing the
Sure,
images
yeah.
through them. So we'll answer it like that. But if we're not answering correctly,
Let us know.
yes, let us know.
Okay, so you want to be able to share images with vendors. What I would say is you definitely want to tag that vendor in the album, and then the vendor, if they have a 2 Bright Lights account, they can, and if they don't, they can set one up. They would then be able to log into their account, hit their albums tab, and see your work there. And one thing that you can also do is adjust your settings. So I believe that's under the My Account tab. Okay, and then if you hit settings, and then hit preferences. So as the photographer, we have a couple things built into 2 Bright Lights to protect your work and make sure that things aren't getting downloaded incorrectly. So you can allow people to download high res if you'd like. Right now we have it toggled off. If you wanted a vendor to be able to download high res, maybe they've gotten your permission to use the images on a new website redesign or something like that, you could go ahead and toggle it accordingly. You will always want to have it toggled on for editors since they're definitely going to want high res files. And then you can also toggle the watermark feature. So if you did not want vendors to be able to download images without a watermark, you could toggle this setting here, and it would require that any image that they download from the album they're tagged in has your watermark on it. And you can use our default, which is this one to the left, or you can upload a custom. It's really up to you.
Perfect.
Okay.
So it looks like that's, oh, we do have a question.
Yay!
Lindsay, what are the best export settings out of Lightroom for best picture quality?
Ooh.
We
Good
might have to get back to you on
question.
that and talk to some of our photographers who use Lightroom.
Mm-hmm.
But Lindsay, if we will make sure we make a note of your question and reach out to you about that.
Definitely. Yes.
So, but we do know that it's the 2,000 pixels wide JPEG format.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are pretty much the go-tos, but we'll try to get you more details.
Definitely. And if you have any photographer friends, might be worth giving them a shout out to and seeing what they use for 2 Bright Lights. We're not wedding photographers, so it's not necessarily our area of expertise, but we're definitely going to look into it for you and assist as much as we can.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that we are
Wrapping it up. Okay.
Yeah.
One plug I will say is we have a 2 Bright Lights blog. If you go to the 2 Bright Lights homepage and scroll to the bottom, there's a blog tab that you can click on. And that's really our educational hub where we have blog posts about tips on what to submit, how to submit. We even have interviews with users of 2 Bright Lights, and they explain how they are successful on our platform. So that's a great place to check out if you're needing some inspiration in your submissions. And please feel free to give us a shout out on social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We love to hear from you guys. So definitely give us a follow and say hi.
Absolutely. And for those of you we met at WPPI, it was so glad you were able to join us today.
Yes.
We loved meeting you, and hopefully we'll meet the rest of you at the next time we're on the road.
Great.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, guys. We hope you have a great afternoon. And again, any questions, reach out to support@2brightlights.com. That's the email that I'm in charge of. So definitely email us and with any questions, and I'm happy to help. So thanks again,
Awesome.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.